New government quarter, of course, including the impressive Chancellery. Different from other Berlin tours, you will stop for lunch at a traditional restaurant, and you will also have approximately 1 hour of free time for shopping and browsing on the pulsarating Kurfürstendamm. So I think it's really great to have some free time, go shopping, and yes, I hope we'll have a great time. And yes, yeah, there's a question. Okay.
And 20 feet. Victory column. Reminder of 3 victories as well, that's why the name. 3 victories of Prussia against 3 neighbors. He called it Operation Barbarossa, which was finished in Berlin on the line with a 13 on it. Yeah, you follow me and it's no problem to see the 13. Lucky number 13, that's us. Yes, please follow me and...
Please keep in mind, when we got out of the bus, we were very close to the former wall. Brandenburg Gate was standing in East Berlin. We have just the Brandenburg Gate with the wall, taken from the Tiergarten side, from the park side. See that? Where my finger is, you see the wall. So the wall was on, from our point of view, behind the gate. So we are standing in the so-called no man's land. I have to tell you that we didn't have just one wall, we had 2 walls. Because we are here in Germany, everything has to be more than perfect. So they built from the Baltic Sea down to Czechoslovakia, which was very difficult to protect, so they installed landmines and all that. Here, they only have 2 walls, right? And watch out, every 500 meters. So let's say, remember Ronald Reagan, when he was here in 1987, Ronald Reagan said this remarkable sentence, or sentences, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down the wall and open that gate. What did he mean? Well, tearing down the wall to make Berlin one and opening this gate so people could go through again. This was the reason. We had 18 gates around the old city of Berlin. 17 were taken away because they were standing all of a sudden in the middle of this. Now it's getting more humid. So please follow me to the bus. The 13. How about that? Great timing.
From the beginning of the 20th century, when they still were trying to copy old architecture. This is Max Planck, Albert Einstein. And Einstein was here for 19 years, and he was really lucky because when he was giving Jewish, and he stayed for good until he died in Princeton, New Jersey, in 1955. So 2005, we had a big Einstein year commemorating 50 years with Marilyn Monroe, you know that? They said she fell in love with him, and she supposedly asked him, Albert, let's make Pantheon in Rome. Oh, yeah. And this was built for the Catholics. Berlin still is predominantly Protestant, but there was a big number of Catholics coming in the 18th century when Frederick the... So keep your eyes on the left-hand side, please. On the right we have an empty open spot. Nefertiti here, the Egyptian queen, which is like the bust is more than 3,300 years old. Is Germany, or socialist Germany, because the socialist government didn't need a royal palace at all in their capital. So they blew the palace away of barbed wire, or the memories of barbed wire on top, which is true for the first 3 generations of the wall. This is the last one, the last generation, the 4th generation. So they built 4 times a wall with a total length of 155 kilometers. We're gonna make a stop in a few moments. Vor dem grünen bitte, rechts ran. Auch wenn wir da ein bisschen die Fahrradspur blockieren, das geht. So we're trying to find a good spot for taking pictures. Gap here, you see there's a little gap. It's very thin, it's like 1 foot maximum. Wow. Because the problem was not the wall alone. The problem was the no man's land behind it, with all these security installations that we have talked about already. And here you will see, keep your cameras ready on the right, because you will see a bigger gap in the wall, and then you will see the river behind it. And the river, Berlin, into the west. So the gap is coming up here. You see, here's the river, and then the shore on the other side was the beginning of the American sector. Coordinating all the control activities along the river. 17,000. Ice hockey we have here, we have handball, basketball. And when the building was inaugurated 3 years ago, I was driving around with David Stern from the NBA, the boss of the NBA, because there's a subtitle saying, "Please God, help me to survive this deadly love." Born supremacy was made in Berlin. And even the scenes that are supposedly taking place with the trams and the Red City Hall, the TV tower once again, and you see the World Clock. All right, Alexander Square, named after the Russian Tsar Alexander the First. Here's the facade of the old building from 1866, on your right. And we make a left turn at the traffic light, and then you can, not really back on stage, but Germany has a different approach to international politics, with this new background being a democratic state for half a century. Bottles. Here the bullet holes on your right. We'll see them again on the cruise. The new owner from Western. And now keep your cameras on the left, please, because this is the best panoramic view of the new Berlin. Something that we won't see from the ship. That looks like a snow-covered volcano, right? At Sony Center at Potsdamer Platz. This is 11 years old. You have the glass dome of the Reichstag. The glass dome was made by Norman Foster from Manchester in the 1990s. You wouldn't have seen that glass dome. You wouldn't have Chancellor or Prime Minister of Germany. At the moment, Angela Merkel. The big white building that looks a little bit dirty, because it had rained. That's why it looks always a little bit dirty.
With those arch things?
With the the archway, or the big eye overlooking the city, big sister. 1.2 billion euros. 1.2 billion euros. At least they admitted so far 1.2 billion euros. It's a crossroads of international railway lines.
Wow.
Didn't move in.
She doesn't live there though, right?
No, she would be, or it would be possible for her to live there, to stay there, because there is an apartment for her. But Angela Merkel said from the beginning, after she had become the prime minister, she said, "I don't want to live here." Switzerland has got the only embassy in the governmental quarter, and this has a reason, because we had 20 embassies here beforehand. And Albert Speer, Hitler's favorite architect, bought all the other embassies in order to destroy them, because they wanted to prepare this area as a construction site. Germania, after 1950. So the biggest building of the world would have been right here with the height.
Chosen as the seat of the German Parliament. So what you see here on your right-hand side, these are the offices for the MPs, and two bridges now span from former West Berlin into former East Berlin. This is where the wall used to stand. Just on your left-hand side, there's sort of a darker 6 deaths, 1981, 14 deaths. It's like a wall memorial. This is where the wall used to stand, because we're now right in the border zone in the former death strip between west and east, and you're passing the white crosses. Don't worry, because we're going to turn around at Museum Island. Everything here belongs to our first state television, the ARD. It's something like the British BBC as well. So for our official television, and it's rated very, very highly. Do that. That was really too frightening. So everybody made it back, and if you had money left, you weren't supposed to take any East German currency across. You could donate it. There were sort of little boxes, and it said for our friends in Nicaragua or any communist country there. And we felt very brave as school children, smuggling coins in our socks across. That's something I sort of the former passport control and checkpoint that said goodbye in East and West times until 1989. Because when the wall was built, once we were in 1961, that's how families were separated, friends, work colleagues. you wouldn't see each other for a long time. But East Berlin or East Germany have the smaller Egyptian collection, because during the war there's an anchor with a red line going through it, and above it it says Kampfmittel. So if ships or boats drive down there, you're not allowed to throw your anchor because it might strike a bomb. We still keep finding unexploded bombs from the Second World War, about twice a year. The last one was just about half a year ago in the surrounding here, in the centre, and even Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, had been living on them, and still not discovered. Also in the first, rather pompous in this location, not sort of as stark and simple as you'd expect Lutheran churches to be.
Into the reconstruction of any church, because socialism and religion didn't really work together. They were considered to be competitors. So what we used to have in Spandau with 7 Nazi war criminals inside. For example, Albert Speer used to be in Spandau prison. He was the only one sentenced to 20 years of prison only. So we're coming back to the railway station Friedrichstraße. Maybe you've seen out of West Berlin. West Berlin was an island in the middle of East Germany, so the wall was built as an obstacle to stop the mass immigration, which is a must today to see Berlin in proper, because many people remember that checkpoint Charlie when the tanks were facing out. But we come, and this kind of tell you that we have still an unemployment rate of 13%. People take it easy. Berlin is a party city. Berlin is very take it easy. Berlin is an affordable city. You don't pay that much. Maybe Sonia mentioned as well that the rent is former general in the successful wars. Germany had successful wars in the 19th century. And jetzt nochmal durch, ganz gerade ausrichten.
Organic architecture from the Cold War, when West Berlin had to build up its own cultural institutions. Right, Sony Center, designed by Helmut Jahn from Chicago. Helmut Jahn, who designed the State of Illinois Center, downtown Chicago as well. The number is not important. The number is not important. 2,711. Eisenman didn't want to have any kind of explanation, any kind of description or name around it. So he thought it would be much better that people talk about it. Here, you see the poplar tree, the tall tree on the left, is standing almost in the same position where the entrance was to Hitler's bunker. There's no bunker anymore. Only the base of the bunker is still here in a depth of 35 feet with a thickness of 9 feet. It's still there. They don't want to take it out. But we know for sure the bunker was here. If we would have been here 66 years ago, of the 16 German states, Bundesrat, the upper house of the German parliamentarian system. Federal Council, if you translate it literally. Yeah, on your right, the DJ of the Galerie Lafayette. Right, that's it. That's a church with a red roof, which is a one-to-one copy of the main temple of the Huguenots that was burned down in Charenton near Paris. Because we had a big immigration wave coming in from France in the end of the 17th century of 12,500. Can you imagine? 7,000 Frenchmen meeting 12,500 Berliners. Here it is, on your right-hand side, Gendarmenmarkt. You see the building in the middle, that's the... We're going to make a stop here, you can get out. For a short, brief photo stop here, 5 minutes, but it's much better to take the pictures outside. Carpet coming out, that's a former theater. It's today used as a venue for classical music, and the most important concept Mauermuseum, as we say, the Wall Museum. And yeah, here are the soldiers with the uniform. You take pictures, but you pay. If you want to be yourself in the picture, then you pay. Right? So we will stop the... And on the left-hand side, they are just taking the scaffolding away of the Martin Gropius house, built as a museum of applied arts, nowadays used as a venue for traveling, migrating. Nothing here, once again, nothing here 20 years ago, 18 years ago, nothing here. And 17 years ago, they started with the construction process. Potsdamer Platz. Here you look straight ahead, you can look underneath the roof of Sony Center on your left. Same story we had here 100 years ago, 90 years ago. In the 1920s, this square was the busiest square in Europe. So they had to, for good. Sorry, we're going to leave East Berlin for good. We're going to move into West Berlin right now. Sony Center, Daimler City, you're right. And on the left-hand side, you see a kind of red carpet in the middle of the street. That's the Boulevard of Stars. It's kind of a walk of fame, so to speak, of German. The man who tried to kill Hitler with a bomb in his suitcase. Because he tried to kill Hitler not in the party of Helmut Kohl. Ready in, as I said, in November, December. And straight ahead on your right, the Zoo railway station, inaugurated 5 years ago, when the new main station was inaugurated. It's no bullet train, no Matisse, Paul Klee, and this is a permanent Picasso exhibition, because there was a Jewish businessman.
Same with school.
Yeah.
I'm private in terms of insurance. My son goes to a private school.
Right.
Because I think the whole system.
Space.